Welcome to day 35 of the Gospel of John Book Club. And in today's reading, Jesus weeps.
That was a good one. Pretty simple. We're seeing sensitivity from the Lord here. I love it.
Yeah.
We're reading John chapter 11, verses 17 to 37. When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in the grave for 4 days. Bethany was also a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary in their loss. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus told her, "Your brother will rise again." "Yes," Martha said, "he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day." Jesus told her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live, even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never, ever die." "Do you believe this, Martha?" "Yes, Lord," she told him. "I have always believed you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God." Then she returned to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and told her, "The teacher is here and wants to see you." So Mary immediately went to him. Jesus had stayed outside the village at the place where Martha met him. When the people who were at the house consoling Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep, so they followed her there. When Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled. "Where have you put him?" he asked. They told him, "Lord, come and see." Then Jesus wept. The people who were standing nearby said, "See how much he loved him." But some said, "This man healed a blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying?"
Yeah. Wow. I love the vulnerability that Jesus shows in this moment. And I also love the dynamic that we start to see with Martha and Mary. And it's just so, I don't even know where to begin today, but I think one of the things that we can really take away is seeing the compassion of Jesus and how he has compassion for them, because he weeps with them, because they're mourning the loss of their friend and their brother Lazarus, but at the same time he weeps for them. So he weeps with them, but he also weeps for them because they don't realize that they're in the midst of God himself, who has the power to bring life to a dead body.
Yeah, I think it's showing how far humans really are from God.
Yeah.
They can't even help it. We can't help it.
Yeah.
It's just the sickness of sin is just so permeated into it. So even when Jesus is right before them, even that Jesus has done all these things, they can't even see it. And I love the dynamic between Mary and Martha, right?
Yeah.
Where it's showing how two people who are believers in a sense can still respond to in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? And so we have Martha, who she hears Jesus coming and she runs out to him.
Yeah. But I love they have the exact same response.
Actually, they have two different responses, right?
It begins the same way.
And then how it follows is different.
Right.
Because she runs out to him.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Lord, if only you had been here."
Right.
But I know that you can do something about it, even still.
Yes.
And then we see Mary's attitude is like, "Oh, Jesus is here. I ain't going out to meet him.
Yeah.
I'm just going." She was a little frustrated.
Yeah. But then she eventually encounters him, and she says the
does
same thing. "Lord, if you only had been here."
But then she ends there, right?
Yeah.
And you can see how far each sister's faith is.
Yeah.
Where it's even in death, Martha still has, even when it seems over, she still has this hope that Jesus can do something.
Yes, I love it.
And even in Mary, Mary's like, death is this is the end,
yeah.
you know? And they both have the sense of death is the end. But first, Mary is not running out to see him.
Right,
She's like,
right.
I'm just going to stay here.
I'm
like,
not, yeah.
you know, some people kind of go through stuff. Some believers
I ain't feeling Jesus right now.
I'm not feeling God right now. They stop coming to church. They don't want to hear nothing about Jesus. You start, they don't want to shut it down. It's like, I don't want to hear that, you know, and they disappear.
Yeah.
They hide from God when they're going through things.
Right.
But I think Martha's posture is an example of how we should be, even when we're going through stuff.
That's right.
Still run to Jesus and still have hope that even when the situation seems dead,
yep.
that,
I know you still got it under control,
God can
though.
still do something.
I don't see it right now. This looks crazy to me, but Jesus, I know you got it. So I'm going to keep rolling with you.
And I think I liked how Jesus responds to Martha in this, right?
Yeah.
It's like, do you believe?
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, yes.
Yes.
You know, and I love it. I love, even in her doubting, even in her mourning, in her grief, her heart is still turned towards Jesus. And I think that's where Jesus wants us.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, I'm sorry, I was just
I love it.
excited about this.
But on the flip side, Mary's like, oh, if you've only had been here. Yeah. And then she just cries like, oh, you know, it's over. Like, how dare you, Jesus?
But interestingly enough.
And I think that's what part of why he's weeping. It's like, oh my gosh, like, Mary, are you serious right now?
Because in a previous, not in this reading, but I think in another book,
in another one of the Gospels,
in the Gospel, Mary is, when Jesus is teaching, Mary is like, she forgot about cooking and she's at his feet learning.
This passage also does allude to that, or maybe yesterday's passage where it says that Mary was the one who would eventually pour the perfume over Jesus' feet. Mm-hmm. So in a later encounter, Mary learned from this experience, and she worshiped Jesus later. She learned from this. So I love that. But yeah, I think that dynamic is just so prevalent, and I love how you really point out the two ways that we are, the two ways that we can be, and the two ways that we can respond in times of difficulty and in the challenges of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that the people also didn't really help the situation much, because they're like, so he's healing blind man. He couldn't come. Yeah. He couldn't come to see his friend. Didn't he know his friend was sick? Really?
Yeah.
You know, those people that is just kind of like, where's your God now? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. All that church she doing, and she's falling apart. You know how people are.
That's right. That's right.
It's kind of like she doing all that praying in that church, and now look at her.
Right.
You know.
All her tithes, and look, he ain't even come. He ain't even
even show up.
He ain't even show up.
People are so trifling.
And that's his friend. That's his friend. He dead.
You know, so I think, so then there's a third heart here, right? Of the people who are just totally far away, and it's like
the judgmental
ones.
Yeah.
So I think it's three dynamics here. It's, you know,
so
there's the ones who are just totally blind. Yeah. Look at him. Here you come down the street. Now he crying.
Yeah.
You know you could have did something.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So despite your circumstances, okay, let's kind of turn it around to you. I wish we could like flip the camera around and the people see themselves. But despite your circumstances, right? Are you convinced of God's power? Are you able to look at your life right now? And I think this is what, like, we do all this. I think, you know, we want to be learning and be in the Word of God and learning Jesus's teachings and learning how to follow Jesus, seeing Jesus as God. But then we also have to take what we're learning and apply it to our lives. There's something that's dying in your life right now. Now, there's two different types of death. There's things that Jesus wants to die so that he can start bringing life to your life.
Let it go.
And there's other things that are dying because the enemy wants to destroy you, right? And I think so we have to kind of be able to separate the two. And sometimes they can look the same. When you're about to get evicted, it can look like it's the enemy that wants to.
You'd be like, the devil is a liar. It's like, no, you didn't pay your rent.
Right. Or maybe because maybe your intent is to pay the rent, but
you're not managing your money well.
Well, in my scenario, Jesus was bringing me out of one career path and taking me into another. And the only way out, because think about it, if I was able to continue paying my rent, like, it would have been hard for me to let go. And so he kind of pretty much just dried up the resources and continued to say, but will you still trust me? And me following him, the testimony I shared in yesterday's reading is where I was able to experience him give me life in a career path that I never ever imagined. I went into youth development. I was working in schools, and I never thought I could work with kids. And it began in the daycare center of all places. I didn't even like kids like that. Not at the time. I love kids now, and I have 4 of my own. So who would have thought? So just to cap it off, are you convinced of what God can do? Are you willing to give over your life circumstances and difficulties to follow Jesus?